Did any aspects of the filmmaking process disappoint you, and why?
Fathoms Deep is a story about thugs, gangsters, mobsters, whatever you want to call them. Two main characters get themselves into like a heap of trouble. They are on the run and things don't exactly go their way.
I decided to write a script that we could shoot with little to no money, little to no equipment, that would still be fun and watchable.
Fathoms Deep is a very directed movie. It's got a very specific idea of how all these characters come together and really what the movie is about. It's straightforward, and yet at the same time it's so deep and has all these other angles, but it's a crime movie.
Just something nasty and violent.
Because we really didn't know what we were getting into. We were like, okay, feature, yeah, let's go shoot it.
Then dealing with them two who think they know it all and I think I know it all.
He can get a bit bossy sometimes.
It's a hell of a job. I mean, it's tough. It's not easy, and it's not fun. I mean, it can be if you have $1 million and you have everyone divvying up the job.
I was with Zach the entire time that he was working on this, or not with him because he was working on this.
Oh, I don't think we're ready to roll. We just eat tape. It's one of
That's
my pet
fine,
peeves.
we can talk.
You have a lot of pet peeves.
We had three of us working on this thing. And to start off with, it wasn't a good deal because we didn't have that much time. We're under a time crunch. So we churned this fucker out. We did 2 or 3 rewrites of the script. It wasn't even finished by the time we first started to shoot. And it was tough. It was really tough because we only had 45, maybe 50 pages. And everybody knows you need a 90-page script at least for an indie. So me and Zach sat down and we churned it out. And I was like, dude, you need more scenes. So he went away, he did a couple more scenes, and I looked at it and I was like, shit, we need to do some rewriting. So we did some more rewriting and we got it done, but it was all under a time crunch and it was fucking tough.
And for people to see our film, to see like, whoa, these guys did this on what kind of budget? By himself,
I'm
yeah.
pretty much entitled to do or
By
say or
himself.
think whatever I want.
And this is like, you know, behind the scenes stuff.
A lot of unnecessary arguments.
Are you gonna, like, do you have your gun in the car? Because I'm gonna go shoot him right now.
It's entertaining, it has good production value, and people can follow it and watch it and enjoy themselves.
What can I do to make this the Batman? Like right on his window or something.
Hello, I'm Russ Whaley. I'm the mustachioed producer. Ah! Dude. Ow, God, why? Anyway, I just had to kick Steve in the dick because he's a dickhead. But we're up here in the desert. Ow, the end of my cock hurts. And we're doing some B-roll shoots for Fathoms Deep. And I have a mustache and I just got hit in the dick. And it wasn't nice. Fuck you. Thank you.
Are there such thing as good guys?
The skies have opened up, I'll tell you what. Dirty rain rolls off my skin. 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 Boy, she's an awful. Oh, she's a mouthful. 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 Boy, she's an awful. Oh, she's a mouthful.
We had all gotten together at a filmmakers meeting to go out to Lake Powell and shoot an alien abduction story. Micro budget, something that was character driven, could be shot on a 0 budget with the camera and the lighting package that we had. When that fell through, you know, it really upset me because this town's full of people that have something going on. You know, everybody's got something in production and it's just not going anywhere. So I decided to write a script that we could shoot with little to no money, little to no equipment, that would still be fun and watchable and good. And so that was my inspiration to write Fathoms Deep.
So I don't know how this like actually started, but I met Zach on this really shitty student film that we did together. We acted together in it about 3, maybe 4 years ago. And we hit it off, and then I lost touch, and I was his Facebook buddy. And then he was like hitting me up, like, hey, we should go for a beer or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, we should. But it never really happened. But eventually, we hooked up somehow. I think we went for a pint. No, we went for a coffee. We went for a coffee in Starbucks. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm getting into movies and stuff. And he had his camera. So we shot this little hooligan short, One Man's Goal. And that was pretty tough. It was like me and him for most of it. Some of it, we both acted in a scene and we didn't have any support at all. So we had the camera, we had the boom, set the boom off to the side, went in front of the camera, acted, and yeah, that's some of the scenes.
I'm Julianne Celeste, and I met Russ when he was doing his serving job at the Yard House. Actually, was hitting on him for a date, I guess. And one thing led to another. We talked about how we both were actors. I wanted to be a director, yada yada. And then he asked me to come help out on his short film, where I met Zachary. We all worked like awesome together. We're like, okay, well, let's do a feature. So we all put our heads together and decided to get going on this feature, Fathoms Deep. And that's that.
Did any aspects of the filmmaking process disappoint me, and why?
So, this is the lovely part where I talk about the problems on the shoot. It was all under a time crunch and it was fucking tough. So, we got there though. We got past that first hurdle, and I mean, from then on, we both agreed, take the time over the script because it's just gonna bone you, because we didn't do any pre-production. So we spent all the time rewriting because we had this we were like, okay, we're gonna film by this date. And by that date, we should have been in pre-production for 4 to 6 weeks before that, but we didn't really have any pre-production. So we were like, fuck, let's go shoot it. So we went in, and I brought on a couple actors that I'd worked with before, and they were pretty good. And then Zach brought on a couple friends to act, which was fine too. But then we got into a bit of a predicament about a couple actors, and I was like, I don't want them on the shoot. I don't think they're up to par and stuff like that. And Zach got upset. Well, he didn't get upset with me. He was always like, give him a chance. And I felt that I gave him a chance, and then they were on the shoot anyway. And I was like, oh, how did that happen? So I wasn't very happy about that, a couple of the casting choices. But then again, it wasn't completely my film, so I let it go. And the performances turned out okay. I mean, I'm not going to name any names. No, I'm not going to name any names, but it wasn't the most ideal casting we did. I mean, we did go out to, I think, Cast, and somewhere else we cast at, and we went through a whole bunch of actors. We found somebody's neighbor was Dwayne Daniels, and he was insanely amazing. He came in and he blew everybody away. And I was just like, shit. I mean, if we can get a cast like that, I mean, we've got it.
The load on our shoulders was incredible. And ultimately, it's up to me to make sure it works. And when the other people don't handle it, it's not their problem, it's mine. And it's an incredibly tough job to make this happen and to bring everything together well. So was I disappointed in some things? Yes, but that's, you don't stop. You keep working until you're not disappointed, or you keep shooting until you get what you want. And that's your reward at the end of the day, is knowing that no matter how much fucking blood, sweat, and tears you put into it, you got what you needed. And the only thing I was disappointed in was cutting the film together and seeing, even though we put all that effort in, even though I had the quality control to the max, there was still some shots that were out of focus, and there was still some things that should have been fixed, but I couldn't do it all. And the couple times that I didn't look at what was going on or triple check it, that's when things failed. And that kind of pissed me off, because it's like, man, everybody on set needed to double and triple and quadruple check that. And I felt like if I didn't quadruple check it, stuff was going to go wrong. And that's a very frustrating thing to come to terms with.
I think the biggest struggles going on as three collaborating filmmakers is that we all three have such different views on things, such different perspectives on how we think things should go, and how overall production works. Here you have me, who's been in the industry since I was 6. I started acting as a kid and going and stuff. I've been on like over 100 sets, and I've been around. I know how things work. I see them from a certain viewpoint. And then you have someone like Russ who went to school for a few years and has really like studied the craft of filmmaking, and so he has his own viewpoint of things. And then you have Zach, who has studied things here and there, and like he's this actor, and he has a different, like all three of us just have a totally different view on filmmaking. And so now you throw us all in a pot, and we decided to make this feature, and you're gonna get some drama. You're gonna get a lot of interesting things happening. Me, who's used to working on these big ass budget films and used to having it done a certain way, our heads sort of clashed together, and there was a couple rough days. I quit one of those days, and that's an interesting story. I just didn't want to show up to set anymore. I was just over the film. I was like, these guys think they know what they're doing. They think they don't need me. Fine. I'm not going to be a part of it then if they don't need me. And so we got in a big argument over the phone. I decided that I was going to show up 2 hours late, finally. And then Russ got on the phone and he said, just don't show up. I was like, F this. Tell me not to show up? Fine, I quit. So I called Zach and tell him, I quit. Just forget it. And they got a little hot in the hot desert, and got a little pissed off at me. But anyways, we ended up talking later that day, smoothed over, the cuts that I was making, and that's when I think we worked our best, is once we got through these problems and the stuff of me not feeling appreciated, the guys feeling like I didn't want to be there, and I didn't. They were totally right to think that. But once we got past that, and Zach and Russ were like, you know what, we do appreciate you. You just need to show up on time. I like to sleep, so I didn't really want to show up to set on time. And we had a lot of issues besides the film itself, and a lot of getting over ourselves as filmmakers and collaborating. And when we finally all realized that, what the main goal was, and we all put our heads together, it was amazing.
You have to deal with these pressures and this stress every day, and there's appropriate ways to deal with it, and there's inappropriate ways to deal with it. And I'm glad I had Russ on set, because I can do all this by myself, but I need people to talk to. I need people to bounce ideas off of. And when things really just, that's not even true. Every problem that came up, I had 2 people, if not more, to help me figure it out. And I, 9 times out of 10, had 1 or 2 options to go fall back on when things got out of control. But you deal with it by going to your AD or your producers, or I'd call my brother or my dad every night and just, man, everything is wrong and everything is hard.
When my brother first told me that he was making a movie, I was pretty excited. He just got his camera, he'd done some smaller stuff with it. I knew he was a good cinematographer, but I didn't really know what to expect with this project. I kind of figured it was going to be a test for his camera because he'd done smaller stuff, and now this was time to do a feature, which that's the technical shots, the directing, the telling actors what to do, and I just figured it was going to be this really low quality, easy-going thing where he would really figure out his camera, and then he would move on to bigger stuff from there. I remember he told me that he had about 3 weeks to write a script. He was getting ready to come on the road trip with us, and he had just this very limited window of time to make this movie, and he didn't even have a script yet. So he'd started to work on these ideas. He'd call me up and tell me little things. He'd send me rough drafts. I'd read them. And as I watched this thing develop, I started to get really, really interested in it because the story was good.
Because to be honest, when you're worried about acting and you're worried about making sure someone shows up with the prop guns and the food and the cars and the wardrobe, and then you're checking what wardrobe are we supposed to be in, you can't concentrate on acting and producing and directing and shooting. So it really just needed a couple more hands on set to do. I needed another me. And not just one. We needed an army of people, and that's why films have 100 people hired on, because there is a specific job for everyone to do. Because when you start worrying about 100 different jobs, it's just a fact of life. Some of them are going to get bypassed.
We got onto set first day, and we completely screwed up because we had. There was an actor that was going to play one of the leads, and they had a lot of personal issues at the time. I didn't know about this. Zach tells me that day, and I'm like, all right, shit, I got to deal with it. So we go over to do the first stuff, and he's getting high. He doesn't know his lines, and I'd worked with him before, and he's a good guy, but he didn't have his shit together, and it really pissed me off. So I was just like, fuck. I took a back burner for that first day, and then I think after that day we realized, all right, this is rock bottom. It's not going to get any worse than this. This is fucked.
I remember our first day shooting Fathoms Deep. We were at the dam, and I had Joaquin there as my director, and I had our other main actor that was supposed to be playing Hicks. And these are my friends. These are guys I've worked with, I respect, and I love them. And when the ball got dropped on that day, there's obviously certain things that you just can't talk about and you can't bring into public. But when the shit hit the fan those days, I remember just being crushed. This is my movie, and it's falling apart right in front of me.
So I put pressure on Zach to fire the guy that was going to play one of the leads. And he was like, okay, yeah, after a bit of talking, we did that. And we actually put Zach in that character. And Zach was, first of all, going to play Cash. And then he started playing Hicks. And it worked out really well. We got Robert Dillon as Cash, and he rocked it out, so that was good.
Ultimately, we had to stop. We shut the production down on day one. I mean, can you imagine that? Day one, we haven't even finished 8 hours of shooting, and already the movie is in real jeopardy, and it may not get hell with getting finished. It may not even have a chance.
Yeah, the first day, fucked.
That was probably my worst day in this business, was getting to that such a height of filming my own movie, and then watching as unprofessionalism and being underprepared and all these things just sink this ship. And ultimately, who do I blame? Well, at the time, I blamed the people around me, and it wasn't until, I suppose hours later, because, I'm an understanding guy, that I put some of that blame back on myself. But that was hard. It was really hard to deal with, is other people not stepping up to the plate when I called them, because when someone calls me, I show up with my boots on.
Russ would get a little stressed here and there too, and I just tell him, hey, you guys, we're making a movie. This should be fun. This is what we want to do. So let's have fun with it. And if we're not having fun, there's no point in being here. And when I got stressed, I would just quit. So.
And it's a personal struggle to deal with those things, but you pray about it, and you get that strength, and you talk to those around you, and somehow you pull through.
Other than that, Julianne phones us about 2 weeks into shooting, and she'd been there the whole time. She'd been pretty much on time, and everything was good. And she comes in. We stayed up in Lancaster, and she went home. We stayed up in Lancaster in a desert motel with all these fucking needle freaks and weirdos. Like, one of them tried to knock on the door and get into our fucking place, and Zach was like, ah, fucking weird. But apart from that weirdo, we wake up and we're like, okay, we feel like shit, but we're gonna get our camera, sound equipment, meet the actors down in the desert, and shoot this shit. And we call up Julianne. I think her call time was 9. Call her up at 9:30, 10, and it's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, oh, I don't know what happened. So then we're like, okay, get your ass up here. She's like, okay. Then waited, and we call her up again about 2 or 3 hours later. Oh, I slept in again. Oh, and it was obvious that she was just sleeping in, playing tardy, whatever. So I was like, all right, I made a call to say, all right, don't come to set today. Just don't bother. And yeah, I think that was a good call, because she tried to quit a few times before that because she was just too tired or not into it or frustrated with us. I know she had a predicament with Zach, predicament with me after that, and
I'd call him and we'd talk, but it was like, hey, I'm editing, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Or I'd get pissed because I haven't talked to him in 2 days, so I'm like, no. Anyways, he does an amazing job. He really does get the job done, and I'm really excited. I've seen a handful of what the movie looks like now. It looks awesome, and I'm really excited to see the final product. And it's pretty amazing that, for their first film, he, Russ, and Julianne have done such a good job with just, being on top of everything. And you got to give them credit, yeah, there was a lot of yelling and screaming, but at the end of the day, I think that this is going to be an awesome project.
But no, he can get a bit bossy sometimes, but then again, so can I. And we don't really boss each other around, because it's just like, Russ, stop. And I'll be like, Zach, stop. And then we'll just be like, oh, okay, fine. And then we'll be like, cool again. So that's pretty much our dynamic. That's what works. But for the most part, yeah, it was a pretty tough shoot. But you do a shoot like that, I mean, your first movie, you're supposed to do 2 or 3 locations, 90 pages. We did the 90 pages-ish, but we had about 15 locations and 20 lead actors. Most of them leads and leads/supporting. We took on a huge chunk to chew on for our first movie, and I think we did a pretty good job. I mean, once you do that for your first movie, you do something that's like a horror or something like that, or just a 1 location deal or a couple locations, and it's just this is easy. But then we did the comedy feature, and that was pretty fucking tough too. So yeah, next time it's gonna be fucking easy.
For the sake of the movie and the sake of the friendships and the partnerships, you just gotta give it and let it go and pick and choose your battles. When we were on set, it was a little different because we didn't have time. We shot the movie in 9 days, and it should have taken 30, but I had to get on the road trip, and I didn't even have a spare hour. So when there was a disagreement on set, such as, well, let's set the camera up over here, it was pretty much just a simple, no, this is where it goes, action.
Zachary had to apologize to everyone every day pretty much for being such a jerk when he was on set, but it's okay because every filmmaker goes through that. I think they go through the process of realizing, oh my gosh, I'm making a movie, this is money and people on the line, and it's a lot to deal with. It's really a lot.
And so when he was actually home and editing it and I was watching him put this thing together, I was just shocked at the amount of quality that he had on there. I expected it was going to be what you would expect in Montana. You'd find maybe one or two good actors that could kind of cut it, and the rest of them would just be terrible actors that didn't know what they were doing, and you'd have an entertaining story, but nobody that really brought it to life or put it together. And this was the exact opposite of all that.
When we started doing the desert stuff, it was pretty tough because we were running around, all the equipment was getting sandy and it was crazy, and we did like an 18-hour day or a 20-hour day one day. We were up there and it was just pretty brutal, but it was fun. At the end of it, I didn't want to see another camera for about 2 or 3 years, and then about 3 months later we're like, oh, we're shooting another one!
And when you're making a movie that doesn't have named talent attached to it, you have to have an incredible story, you have to have incredible characters that really can captivate and hold the viewer's attention.
After our debacle at the dam in Sherman Oaks, I decided that I did not want to work with my friends. Some of them I needed to keep. Dregs, Azimuth Kaminsky, like the man I had worked with before on Bukovina Card Game, and I thought he did a fantastic job. And he's just, I mean, you'll see, he's just an enigmatic looking guy, and he owns the screen when he's on it. And the same for Austin Galante. You know, I picked him because he looks the way he does, and I thought that audiences would like to see that. So I really fought for those two to stay in, and I cut some other people out. I had asked my friend and a really great actor, Brian Brummett, to, I think, play the part of Lou, but he's a younger guy, and he didn't have a heads up about the film. Well, no one did, because we finished writing and then went straight into production. But I had asked Brian to play the part of Lou, and he agreed, I think 5 or 6 hours after I had asked him. This was on day one, and when we got done with the day, I called him up and I said, hey, forget about it, man. I can't have you here. I need to cast somebody that needs this and wants this and will be there and all that stuff.
Gaz was somebody that I'd seen a little bit of in One Man's Goal. And now on Fathoms Deep, he was just this blown-up character that was so crazy and so psychotic. And I hadn't met Russ at this point. I didn't know who he actually was. And I had this incredible vision in my mind of who Russ Whaley was going to be when I met him. And it turns out he's actually so far from that. But in the movie, he's just this psycho, crazy guy that is very intimidating. He's very fierce. His British accent is just like needles on the back of your neck when you hear him say some of the lines that he says, and it just really sends chills up and down your spine to know that there's guys like that out there. And it was just a beautiful job capturing those moments from a guy like Russ Whaley. When you meet him, he's actually just a very kind person, really laughable, really funny, easygoing, and yet he plays such a criminal in this movie, and he does it so well.
We're sitting in the casting, and we bring in this actress that we all call the Vampire. I'm not going to say whether she got cast or not, but she comes in and she's just like, you know, just eye fucking everybody in the room to get a role. She says, well, I'll fund your movie. I don't even know the order of this, but she was a crazy bitch. I mean, she shows up probably on time, but whatever, like, cast was going to kick us out of the building in 10 minutes, like 3 minutes. So we said, okay, you're reading for Mystery Girl. And she says, no, I'm reading for Cassie. She has a name. Okay, well, normally I'd correct that, but since we just got to get in and out, I'm like, all right, from now on, it's Casey. It was Casey. She said, Casey. She has a name. I'm like, all right, she's Casey from now on. So she is supposed to get emotionally involved or whatever. She does her first take, and we got to go. We're getting kicked out. And she's like, no, I want to do more. Like, quiet. You're not going to film that while I'm on it. It's just all around, all off the wall. Like, all of us were scared of her. She, I mean, literally, like, this girl's a vampire. I'm totally convinced. And, I mean, shit, she demands that we let her do it again. And the guy's pounding on the door saying, get out of the building. And we're like, oh, you know, it was great. Like, it was totally great. And I think she gave Russ the eyes, and she's like, so do I get the part? Like, what do I need to do to solidify my role in this part? You know, it's that kind of thing. Shenanigans.
Fathoms Deep is a story about, I guess you could say, thugs, gangsters, mobsters, whatever you want to call them. Two main characters who are kind of caught up in, I guess, drug deals and get themselves into like a heap of trouble. They are on the run and things don't exactly go their way.
I'm not going to say the brand of this water because it might not get distribution.
It's such a random story. We have so many characters and there's so much going on in a short period of time. I didn't know if that would be too jumpy and if it would feel like a short film, because we bounce from Hicks and Cash to Gasm Bandages to Dregs to Lou and his cronies to Mystery Woman to Pox and Amber and to the Russian, and it just goes on and on and on and on.
We added those detective scenes with Preston Hillier, and I worked with him on Spoils of War. We got him in, and he was a rock star. He worked really well with Zach, and added like another dimension to the film. And I believe that adds like a different like edge to it, because otherwise it's just, you know, following these guys tracking through the desert. But then you have an afterthought, which is Hicks, who is in present time, and he's telling this story and he's flipping back and forth and all this stuff. So that's pretty cool because it adds like another dynamic to the whole thing. And we actually added that. I think I was in my apartment and I was just about to do laundry or beat off or some weird shit like that. And I was on the phone to Zach. I wasn't beating off, but I was on the phone to Zach. And I was talking to him and I was like, hey, Zach, what are we going to do about, like, you know, there's a pickup day. I don't want to go back to that fucking desert. It's hideous. And he's like, oh, well, I've been thinking about this thing and like this thing with the desert and like maybe Hicks gets caught by the cops. And like I was like, oh, all right. And then between us, we came up with this interrogation scenes that would be intercut within it all.
Oh, it's so cold!
No, you better splash. Cannonball!
Gorgeous model there diving into the pool. That was our first shot. We actually started with the camera underwater, calm water. She dives in, swims, you know, it's a total sex sells shot. And I don't remember saying action on that. I mean, you got a million things running through your head, and I totally missed it. I missed my golden call. There's got to be some word for that in the dictionary of filmmakers. The very first time you say action.
Okay, I'll have you walking on this too. As soon as she dives, and you on action right before she dives.
And yeah, you can just lean over the edge. There.
Wait, before she dies, walk over there? Or?
As soon as I say action, you can start and let her die before.
Okay.
And we met this great actor, Konstantin Lavish, who played this crazy Russian who was digging a hole like with a body in it, and so was Zach's character, Hicks. And that was pretty funny because we went up there and we were right in the middle of nowhere, and we start doing this stuff, and we didn't have anybody to play the dead body, and I was on camera and sound, and it was like, all right, I'm going to be taking over. This is Zach. I'm going to be taking over for this for us, and we need a body. Konstantin was already wrapped. He'd done his part, and he was great. So he got me to wrap up in a towel, put all this fucking blood all over me. It made me be stiff as a board, and I was bitching because I couldn't see anything. I was just like, all this heat on me and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, like, is he really gonna bury me right now? For like a half second, I was like, did I really piss Zach off in the last 2 weeks? So he takes me back, out of frame, starts dragging my ass in, and I'm like this, underneath, I'm like, fuck you, Zach, fuck you. And then he puts me in this thing, and he's like, I can just hear the and I felt all this shit go on the top of me, and I'm like, how far is he gonna bury me in this stuff?
We
Alright,
shot
alright,
a film.
All right, I want to say we have a couple minutes left. Zach, I appreciate you. Yes, I did that on the camera.
I think
That's gonna make the featurette.
I think that about every 5 minutes there was a little bit of. Can you please show the action that went on?
He did that to the boom a lot. He grabbed the
I had
boom
to deal
and
with
like,
that about
But who did
every
I
5
learn
minutes.
it from? Who did I learn it from?
This guy.
This one used to do it on One Man's Goals. She would be raping
We
Zach
both
from
learned it
behind
from
with the
her.
boom. And then I'd be like, Zach, she's doing it again. She's doing it. He'd turn around and be like, and she'd just be like, oh, hey, what's up? And I'd be like, no, she was raping you with the boom.
Okay. The thing about that is that never actually happened.
Oh, it totally
Russ
did.
just makes stuff
I don't
up.
know. It was behind my back. I never saw
You
it.
can feel it enter you.
Okay.
Another day that we were in LA, we did the Jude Law scene. That was really one of my really good friends, Greg. And everybody says, Greg, you look like Jude Law. And we were like, and Zach cottoned onto this, and he's like, oh, I wrote this Jude Law scene. I'm like, what's this about? So I read it, and I was like, oh, this is funny. So we did it in a 2-shot, pretty much. And it's me and Bandages, Franklin. He was actually in my first short, Toy Soldier. He played the dad, really good actor. And we played it really dry, and yeah. And yeah, he looks like Jude Law, and I think we actually transformed him into Jude Law. I mean, he pretty much got into that character. He was, I mean, if Jude Law gets the shit kicked out of him and stabbed and beaten and punished, he's gonna act like Greg did.
Julianne and I went up to the Mojave Desert, east of Palmdale, and I mean, people up there are like hillbillies, but they're neo-Nazi military, walking around with their HK 308 sniper rifle type of hillbillies. We are way out in the desert. No one knows where we are. There's rattlesnakes crawling around. We pull down this dusty road, and I start seeing signs that say, USMC Sniper is watching you right now. If you can read this, you're in range. No trespassing, like every 5 feet, turn around or get shot, stay alive, leave. And we pull up in front of this compound out in the desert, and this looks like From Dusk Till Dawn, like wooden fence out, or chain link fence out front, and a mile of like empty, deteriorating, rotting semi-trailers and trucks. I mean, it was either a chop shop or like a drug cartel or something, but they've got like tattered flags flying. There's German shepherds like barking at us from behind the gate. And like crap. So we're turning around. I just wanted to get one shot of this because I thought it would add for the B-roll for the film. And this huge fat guy comes up, like must have spent his entire like last 5 years out in the sun. He rides up on a 4-wheeler in combat boots, a diaper, and holding a Bud Light in one hand and a walkie-talkie in the other. And he's like, yeah, I got him at Bravo Gate. Like, get over here. Yeah, no, I see him. And I get out and I'm going to talk to the guy because I don't want him to think we're just trespassing or whatever. I say, yeah, hey, we're filming a movie. immediately the attitude changes and he's like, no shit, well, come on in. He opens this gate and this German Shepherd bites Julianne on the hip. Just takes a bite out of her and the guy kicks it and he's like, it's no big deal. And Julianne's like, gonna turn into a werewolf in a couple hours. And, the guy, we see the dog like limping off and it's got tufts of hair missing like, from its backside. And the guy says, yeah, that's Ruffles or whatever. He's a wild dog and I shot him with my shotgun like 3 years ago and then nursed him back to health. And I believe it because I saw the like pellet holes in this thing's fur. And anyway, the guy takes us around the compound where every building we go into, he's tapping around for rattlesnakes and he says, well, we eat what we catch. And the compound was amazing. I would have loved to have filmed there, but this guy's sporting a big Nazi tattoo on his on his chest, right above his humongous beer belly. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm taking bandages up here, So we didn't end up using it. Actually, we wanted to, and I was totally ready to pay for the location, but the guys never got back to us. I'm just completely convinced there's some shady stuff going on up in the Mojave, but that's why we chose that location, and that's why there's a lot of the story behind Fathoms Deep. And that's why we wanted to shoot it there, because it really is a truly wild west. Another quick story. We had to rent a few things. We had to put money into some of the production. We had to rent guns. Doc over at Indie Arms, I met him on DVX User. He was awesome. I think he cut us a deal. I wanted to get guns that it would actually fire, and I didn't care that we didn't have permits because I'm from Montana. I know how to do all that stuff, whatever. It didn't happen, but we got some really good replicas, and money had to go to that. I had to have a convertible for Pox and Amber to ride in because that's just the character. I absolutely wanted it for this one shot. We hired one. I looked all over, found some really cool blue Corvette, but money and time and all this scheduling issues. We end up getting a lady up in the desert willing to rent us her car for the few days, and the stipulations was, $50 a day. We need your car for a couple shots. We'll take care of it. I mean, and when this car was on set, I totally babied this thing. I didn't hot rod it like I wanted to for the movie, but we babied it. And I cut her loose early one day, and I told her we would need her at noon the next day. Well, I called her in early at like 11, and she says, we're talking like desert bunny up here, She tells me she's got to go to a casting call for a model, something or other, and she needs her car back in like 5 minutes, and we have a whole scene to shoot around this car. And I'm like, we did it. We got.
Okay, so I don't know. 6 months after they've finished Fathoms Deep, we decided to go out and do some B-roll in the desert. And Zach is like, yeah, like come out with me. It'll be great. We'll do some sunset. We'll stay in a shitty hotel room. We'll get some pizza. It'll be really nice. I'm like, okay, sounds fabulous. Then all of a sudden, these two random guys are going to come up too, and they're going to stay in our hotel room, and now it's even more awkward. Well, Russ was there, so I knew him at least. But he brings this like kind of guy that's kind of random and strange and just always trying to be funny, and I just decided to do some work. So I'm doing my work on my computer. I'm doing my thing. We're in the hotel room. It's all good. We decided to play some poker. Okay, fine. We're having some beers. It's all good. Then it's time to go to sleep. Well, finally, okay, so I fall asleep fine. Well, like, I don't know, 11, it's probably like 12 or 1 in the morning, and I wake up to this awful snoring coming from the other bed, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how is he not waking himself up? Like, seriously. And so I'm like rolling around, and finally Zach is like, are you okay? I'm like, no. There is this guy, aka Russ, who is snoring like it's his job. I can't sleep. I know we have to be up before the sun rises in the morning, and they're not gonna get up. So Zach is like freaking out and he's feeling really bad. He's like, okay, like, I'm like, I'm seriously gonna, like, do you have your gun in the car? Because I'm gonna go shoot him right now. I'm gonna strangle him. Anything will work. It's fine. I'm gonna punch him. It's gonna be perfect. And brownies are ready.
So I guess let's get into it. One thing I wanted to talk about is the bandana.
Bandana.
Oh
Best
god,
part.
the fucking
Best part,
bandana.
right? I show up and I just pulled this wardrobe, which is always like a difficult thing, especially for me because I'm so tall. What is
Fucking
my character
horrible.
gonna wear? I had this awesome cut off hoodie, like
Awesome.
long sleeve, whatever. Hicks looked like a total badass, and I thought the final piece to accentuate all this was a black kavadba bandana.
And it was perfect. It was like perfect, make him look like a total
Douchebag.
Somebody threw
gangster.
complete
Gangster.
fit about it, and which is why you'll only see it in one shot of the movie, and that's me driving off in the car,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
This guy saw it and thought he looked like a 1980s pirate. And a butt pirate
what's
at
wrong
that.
with that?
Not
Not a
cool.
butt pirate. He looked
I
like
I didn't,
a cool
I didn't want him
pirate.
to look like a
that
biker
would kill you.
pirate,
An outlaw,
an asshole.
right?
Well,
All cool.
which comes with being a mobster or a gangster.
No, not an asshole in a good way, just a douchebag. So anyway, I allowed him to have it in one of them, and he was like, "Oh please, it looks so fucking cool." And
The
yeah,
bandana was cool.
the bandana was not.
It was,
Can
but
we-
anyway, we lost it. Okay, the fun times on set, and this is like, you know, behind the scenes stuff. There was some testicles that got shown, probably numerous times. Like I think that was how I let off steam. Was, you know, Russ would be in his car, and I'm like, oh, this fucking movie. What can I do to make this the Batman? Like right on his window or something. And, you know, Julianne, she's a very put together girl. She's morally straight. I think I'm morally straight, but I ain't got a problem, you know, showing off the brain once in a while. So she turns around and sees the bat wings, like a bit of an issue on set. Rusky.
You're on film right now. What are you doing?
The old geezer tied
He gets
up,
into it.
and he's got this gag on him or a credit card in his bloody mouth.
That was my idea. Put it right now.
We're setting up for the shot, and most actors, you know, when we're setting up for the shot, they're over there like, you know, reading lines or just dicking off.
Showing that crafty.
Eric is sitting in front of our 650s, which are like nasty, hot energy. He's over there like in a sleeping bag with a stocking cap on, sitting this far away from the lights, getting sweat just pouring off his face. And I'm like, Eric, what are you doing?
Ruining my makeup job, first of all. But it was legit.
I got a credit card on off. I need Eric Tones.
Ow! It fucking hurts.
Rolling.
So let's put it this way. I'm really not an actress. I'm going to school to be an acupuncturist. So it's a little awkward when you get asked to be a part of a movie, which is fine. Small role, no words, zero words. And you're a masseuse and your boyfriend's like, okay, so you're massaging, just keep massaging him. Yeah, it's fine. Now just go ahead and go farther down. Okay, so this is supposed to be an effect that's funny. So I want you to go down. I want you to massage his ass. Awkward.
Anything else?
Okay, what about the scene with a Russian girl? What was her name?
Linda Bella.
Linda Bella.
I don't know if
Can
she's
you guys-
Russian. She's
can
French.
you
She
guys
was
tell us
gorgeous.
about-
I loved her.
Linda Bella, awesome. She blew us away
She
in
was
the
amazing.
audition. And
She was the
blew us
best in the
away
audition out of
in the,
anyone, and we loved her.
She blew us away
She was
on
fantastic.
on a film too.
Yes.
And then
She would blow me away any day.
our dolly move. Watch the film. Like we pulled off.
There's a
the
sick
most
dolly move, and it was
amazing
just me
dolly
and
move.
him.
Like,
And one of us had sound, and the other, like, he was in charge of the camera, and it was shooting that way. And we had a
Point
movement.
focus.
It was dollying whilst it swiveled 360. It was
They broke the
fucking
line.
crazy. I don't care.
I think if it's
No,
continuously
no,
shooting, there is no
I don't
line.
think so. No, we followed the
Could
girl
be wrong.
around.
There's
You
somebody
didn't-
wrote a
You
filmmaking
broke the
book.
line.
I
It's
never
okay to break
read
the line
it,
if
but
you have a good reason.
I think it was called pushing the proscenium, but we're good.
I'm gonna push your proscenium.
It's already been done. I'm a guy.
It's like a sweaty baseball glove.
It's like a sweaty baseball glove.
All right, final words. We got 30 seconds left. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Like, this was a ton of hard work, but I think it paid off, so we want to share. And
If you're one of those,
enjoy.
if you're one of those people that watches the making of featurette first, and you've already seen this shit, well, I'm gonna ruin the movie for you, because the last words.
Dirty rain.